Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm excited today to talk to my friend Adama. We're going to be chatting about essentially how do you step into your masculine more when you're more of a naturally creative or feminine person. Now, we're going to be talking as men, how that shows up for us in a society that expects men to show up in their masculinity in a certain way. But this could also apply to women as well. So I just wanted to state that up front because we all do have masculine and feminine qualities within us. So it's like my buddy's here jumping on right now. So excited. Awesome. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments that come up, please feel free to type them in the chat, or if you're watching this afterwards, please add your comments on what's resonating with you. Yo, what's up? How you
What's
doing,
up?
brother?
Super good. Super good to be here on the
Yeah,
technologies.
it's been a long time coming, man. I'm excited to just dive in with you a little bit more in this way.
Yeah, so honored to be here, brother. Thank
Heck yeah,
thank you for having me. Can you
absolutely.
just look good? Cool.
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you.
Awesome. Nice, bro.
Sweet.
How are you?
Good, good. It's been a bit of a crazy few days. Crazy last month, really. I feel like I've just been in creation mode, just getting a lot of things up off the ground. And the last few days, uh, I crashed for a little bit, to be honest. I needed a little bit of time to reset and rest and recover, which I've given to myself now. And yeah, I'm excited to just be listening to my body and be getting back into a bit of a better flow today.
Yeah, I feel that. It's been weird energy waves for
I
sure.
mean, we've got the inauguration tomorrow, so I'm assuming that some of it has to do with that and just the air energy in the air being a bit hectic.
That makes sense.
Yeah, how are you doing, brother?
Yeah, we out here is all I can really say. Yeah, empowering times, vulnerable times, constant waves and spirals. Um, so all of it, a little bit
Mm,
of all of it. Yeah.
mm, I feel that, bro. It's fucking hard sometimes. Like, it's hard for me to even admit that because I'm a strong person, but yeah, like I was struggling the last couple of days for sure. And it's not easy, it's not comfortable, but I'm glad to have a lot of great support around me, and so that's helped me and just to have myself to listen to. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
just feeling that as well. I was just like I was having one of those moments shortly before hopping on here, like hopping on here with the energy of like I have something to offer and like I'm doing great in many regards, and having one of those moments of like, oh, I'm a mess.
Mm,
And feeling a big opening around that, like admitting and acknowledging that. Um, 'Cause it's like, oh, cool, that's really divine. I don't know, there's something that feels really divine about being messy.
mm,
It brings me back to like, oh yeah, this is actually what I'm here. This is how I serve. I offer any wisdom or knowledge or any high thing that I can bring doesn't mean anything if I'm not a messy human being. It's just not real.
mm,
So it's kind of just like humbled me from like whatever story or box I was putting myself in as being above the mess, which I didn't even realize that I was doing.
mm. I love that. I
It's
love that.
obviously for like coaches and teachers and all that. Yeah. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing up that vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's actually a great segue into the topic that we're going to be discussing today, which is around, um, I forgot to add the title. I don't know if I can do that now or not. We'll see. Nope. Okay. Yeah, which is around embracing the masculine as being a more naturally inclined feminine or creative energy. So kind of what we were just talking about was more of a feminine energy, right? The masculine is the one that just shows up and is strong and just like get shit done. And it's funny though when my feminine is like crying out that it needs more attention and I ignore that, um, man, it's just like it's not good and I can't do it. Like I can't ignore when my feminine is calling anymore. And when I need rest or creativity or just something else non-linear rather than just like focusing and accomplishing and like time and all of that. It's like I need to just let go of time and let go of accomplishment and just be.
Wow.
And I think that's like been a big challenge for me most of my life because I am more naturally inclined for the timelessness, for the creativity, for the like free thinking and my mind being in 100 different places rather than like that focus is something I've really had to work on and develop. So yeah, I'd love to hear what your experience of that is.
Well, yeah, there's something about what you just said or touched on, like in the way you were expressing, like sometimes you just gotta listen to your feminine and just like you just can't, it just doesn't make sense to make yourself do the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes you just gotta drop all of that and just be like, no, no, like this is all wrong. Like that touched me really deeply because, yeah, as you know, it's hard to awaken to that. There's this war that we're taught and to live in, and I feel that most of us are taught actually to suppress the feminine, right? Obviously, to suppress the feminine to the point where we're not even feeling the fact that there is a war going on. We become like we turn away, and the war is like a silent war. It's like an avoidance rather than a conscious abuse of that tender part of us.
Mm,
But I personally, and people like us, creatives, artists, sensitive souls, for us, it's like we can't just numb ourselves. Some of us really are not designed to like, we can't function the same ways as others. So that just touched me really deeply because my whole life, what has brought me to this place today has been becoming a bit really devout to that process of like no, like no, like whatever you think I need to do, whatever I'm told I need to do, like no, and there's something really beautiful and tender about like feeling into what that part is that's like crying, the feminine part. That's just like hold up, like um yeah, so there's a lot there that's been neglected throughout all of our ancestors for the most part. You know, maybe at some place in time there was some good flowy times, but for the most part, this humanity has been built upon the suppression of that aspect and that go, and
mm.
and I feel like now is really the time where we get to unlock all the suppressed emotions that our ancestors had to pretend they weren't feeling in order to just get by in a really difficult world and social expectations. Yeah, so that's a little bit of like
Mm.
I could go deeper, but
Yeah, I love the piece you were just touching on there at the end, um, around like social expectations and just like the time we're in right now, right? Like we don't like if I don't show up and work for like let's just say one day, like nothing bad's gonna happen, right? Um, back in previous times in history, it's like I think we had to be a lot more on guard and just like showing up with our masculine to protect from immediate threats. But we have the privilege of not living in that time anymore, and the privilege of being able to, especially as men, be able to relax and release more into our feminine and to explore that more when maybe there wasn't as much of a chance in previous times. So I think that's an amazing blessing that we have to have the freedom, and and not even all men have that, right? Like, you and me, like, have privileges in certain ways that we can really take that time for ourselves, especially as entrepreneurs, since we have a bit more flexibility in our schedules, like we're able to release into that flow a bit more. Um, I'd love to talk a little bit about like kind of that struggle to find balance between the two, because sometimes in my life I need to show up with that masculine. I need to be that leader. I need to be that strong man who's like getting shit done that other people are looking up to and relying upon so that they can trust that we're getting to where we need to go. We're getting to where we're trying to go. And yet there's also a part of me that needs to show up with my feminine and really be that like soft, supportive presence and to really be open to the shifts and changes that are happening and not be so rigid in my thinking of like, I have to get to the next thing, I have to do the next thing. I had that happen to me yesterday where I had to say no to one of my regular commitments that I rarely ever say no to in order to take time for myself and to take an Epsom salt bath and to just get back and reset because I was feeling a little bit outside of my center and outside of myself and overwhelmed. And it was just like several things happened yesterday that, it was like by the last thing that happened that went wrong, I was like, okay, like there's something bigger going on here. And I need to listen to the messages that are coming at me because I'm hating life right now. And I'm hating myself right now. And I'm exhausted and I need to take a step back. So that's been a struggle for me over the years, especially as an entrepreneur. And like if stuff doesn't get done, like that's on me. Um, but we all have that in our own lives in our own ways, right? Like that masculine that is being called out of us, whether that's at our work or in a relationship or whatever it might be. I feel like that masculine, especially for men, is often called upon and we're expected to, with those social norms, like show up in that way. And there's not as much talk about like, hey, it's like, hey, have you gotten that work done? But when do you ever hear like a coworker walk by and be like, hey, have you been getting enough rest? You've been just like, when's the last time you took a bath? Just like chilled out. We don't talk like that, right? We don't ask men, especially, like, how is your feminine doing? How is your rest and recovery? How is your like self-care going? We're like, when is that report gonna be done? Like, have you sent that email? Like, oh, you need to follow up on this shit. It's like, what? Like, for
Ooh,
sure that stuff's important, but like, why don't we at least also check in on the other stuff?
so much there, bro. Yeah. Yeah. As you speak about this, it feels so big, this conversation. And it's like I said earlier, it feels like it's just the beginning of something that's been waiting to happen forever. Like this conversation of like, how's your feminine doing, bro?
Yes.
Like, like the toxic masculinity that even so the whole idea, it comes back to really fundamentally is this idea that there's a separation between the masculine and the feminine, which is what we're blowing apart right now. And just that simple acknowledgement of like we all contain feminine and masculine energies within us, and all the shit in the world, really you can blame it on the patriarchy, but on a really deep fundamental energetic spiritual level, the patriarchy is a bunch of men who have been taught to neglect their feminine,
Mm.
been taught that they can take that Epsom salt bath. So there's like incredible, and just in general, this whole feminine way of like just the re contextualizing the idea that it is of service, it is a progressive thing, it is a helpful thing, um, for humanity, for whatever work we're doing, to be able to take care of ourselves and to be able to actually throw any idea of rigid structure that we have to fit into. Like my masculinity, what however I'm showing up and feeling called to show up, and I will own that I have a deep masculine drive and ability to show up when it's needed in really like fucking I can do the fucking thing. But the reason I feel like I have the gift of being able to do that in an integrated way, that's really that's really like holistic, for lack of better terms, is because I've given myself permission first off to like to really dissolve into my feminine.
Mm,
So I went through my personal journey has been like uh, I just because I don't identify as a man. I don't identify with that gender. I experience myself on the deepest level to be uh, pure consciousness,
mm,
androgynous, agender. And so there's been processes for me of like seeing all the ways that I have suppressed this deeper flow and vulnerability and tenderness, and the ways that the society has projected onto me. Like we have so many unconscious projections based on if I see you, and then immediately the word man comes into my head, and immediately I will treat you in a different way than I treat someone that I perceive as a woman. And so just coming to terms with like the imbalance of that and how much grief this feminine part of me wanted to feel, and space wanted to feel that like dislodged the sense of being a man as part of my earlier healing journey of like going deep into the feminine. Then I realized that um, then I realized that I was repressing my masculine. So first it was realizing that
mm,
I was repressing my feminine, and then it was like, oh, because I'm so sensitive, as you relate, because I'm so deeply connected to the feminine, and it was this realization of like, I am connected to all women. I am not something separate from women, and it hurts my heart that I'm projected, that I'm some separate being, and that I
mm,
can't feel that authentic connection with my sisters in that true intimacy of family, of unity, of oneness. It was just like this fucking exhaustion of like, that's not fair. That's not fair. How is my feminine not honored right now? And just seeing the deep incongruence that we have socially with that. And then after like coming into my feminine, then it was like, oh wow, I have so much repressed, dormant masculine energy that's wanting to be owned and claimed. Um, and because I've had that foundation of like honoring my feminine and learning about that, um, and just to be clear, like a lot of women in this culture are disconnected from their feminine as well,
mm,
right? Um, so as a man, as a male body, reclaiming that has allowed me to trust in the masculine coming through me in a much deeper way, because it's so it is that balance and that connection. It is the disintegration or the integration of the belief that these are separate forces, which brings us into a whole nother like esoteric zoomed out conversation if we want to go there. But I know you kind of asked about more like practical shit. um, yeah, so that just came through, and I'm happy to
mm.
be back with what feels most alive for you there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And I appreciate your willingness to lean into this more and share more of your vulnerability and just your truth, really, most of all. Um, yeah, I think it is interesting how, based on how someone looks, we make all these assumptions, for better or worse. That's just like part of the human experience, at least at this point, is that most people will look at someone and they will make up their mind in a lot of ways about who that person is or how they should show up or, you know, what to expect from them or how to treat them.
Right.
And I think on the one hand, I understand why that happens in a world of so much overwhelming information. I think we're programmed just to, in order to actually like be able to have some kind of interaction every day, that we have to like categorize things, right? To a degree, we have to like, you know, go off our assumptions or our previous experience, which again, I don't even want to say it's necessarily like a bad thing. I think it's just what we do. But I think what is needed more of, in my from my perspective, is like a willingness to see beyond what maybe my initial perception of someone is, and to be open to not needing that person to be how I expect them to be based on my past experiences and my previous programming. So I think it's you know, because even as I was talking earlier about like, oh, like us as men, you know, I didn't even realize like or think to ask you like, what do you identify as? What is your experience with that
I'll play with
label?
don't my that I use that like I can rock with that word,
Mhm.
but I hold it lightly. So like I'll play with it because it's a tool, like you said, they're tools, but I don't identify with it as who I am. It's like
Mm,
an aspect, a dimension of myself. But I also oftentimes find myself experiencing myself as the mother, which is like,
mm.
and as you were saying, like you experience yourself like as the feminine, like, so yeah, it's just not the whole picture, but I still rock with it, so it's all good.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, and I think that's amazing. And I love also how you brought up that like there's a lot of, I mean, I can't say because it's not my experience, but like a lot of humans who identify as women are probably disconnected from their feminine in a lot of ways. Or I've heard and they've told me. Um, and I think that's also important to note, that it's not just, quote, men or people who identify as men who are disconnected from their feminine. It's, I think the deeper conversation is how does one embrace and continue to deepen their relationship with both the masculine and feminine aspects of oneself in order to come to a greater understanding and experience of both of them and of other people. So for me, like I grew up identifying internally a lot more with the feminine, and a lot of the ways that I showed up weren't how most of the other, you know, boys in my class would show up. It's like I was very emotional, hard on my sleeve. I just was, I operated in a very non-linear, non-time based zone. My mom would always tell me like, oh, like Nathan, it's like Nathan time. Like he has his own, like I was in my own little world. I didn't really exist within the constructs of like society or typical like other boys, and I didn't understand the concept of like turning in homework till like second grade. Like I just, there were certain like masculine things that I just didn't get. They weren't even in my awareness. Like, and I think, you know, I it was hammered into me so much that I've learned those concepts, but left to my own devices, like I'm just gonna be like daydreaming or zoning out, or you know, just not really here and showing up in that way. And yet, I see the importance of it a lot more now. I see the importance and the value in showing up with my masculine while still honoring my feminine. And I think there's a lot of men out there, people who identify as men, who it's the opposite. They are very naturally inclined and very good at showing up with their masculine, and yet they don't quite understand their own feminine nature very well. And I think that's where we get certain phrases like, oh, like I'll never understand women, or like I don't even understand my wife, or you know, just men say stuff like that. And I think that's why, it's because they're disconnected from their own feminine. And I think that's the work that is being asked of men or masculine dominant persons. Let's even say like there's women who are probably more naturally inclined to be in their masculine, and there's an invitation there of leaning more into their feminine. And I think that that is one thing that will help us to rebalance as a society is there's like an imbalance in how we're showing up with our masculine. And I think a greater understanding. So the most common solution that I see presented is to shame the masculine. It's to shame this toxic masculine, this overabundance of masculine energy, or to like reel it in, like, oh, you have too much masculine, you need to like calm that down or cut that shit out or like, pull back and suppress that more, which I see maybe in the short run might be helpful in certain situations. But honestly, I question the effectiveness of that as an actual long-term solution. I think that only elevating the feminine is really what can bring a long-term solution there because it needs a counterpart energy because they're meant to work together is what I want to say. The masculine and feminine are meant to work together and understand each other. And I think the reason a masculine energy gets out of control and shows up in a way that could be harmful or hurtful in certain ways is because there's a weak feminine,
Yeah.
because there's not an integration with the feminine, because the feminine balances out the masculine, the yin to the yang. So I'd love to hear how that lands for you.
It lands like nothing else. Like it's interesting. I'm noticing on one hand how like yeah, what we're sharing can be so hard to like grasp on some levels because we're playing with the realm of like all this sense of separation that has been created with words and in our culture between like masculine and feminine, like, and we're like blowing apart any idea that we have about what is what, because the truth is that life as we know it is the yin and yang, the combination of feminine and masculine energies. This is a creative principle that is inseparable. It is truly one. So when we really go and peel back the layers, there is no separation between masculine. Like you can't separate them. Um, and so yeah, this is a world built on men seeking to remember union with the feminine, seeking to remember that they're one with the feminine, whilst while being conditioned to believe that it is something outside of them, um, which reflects their relationship with their inner feminine. So unconsciously, right, men are conditioned from a young age to neglect their own feminine and to abuse their own feminine and to like dominate it. And in that lack of loving relation that is projected externally. Um, and so I think as spiritual people, what we discover in those realms of daydreaming and in those realms of like flowing and whatever the fuck we're doing when we're not doing homework or what society wants us to do in our jobs, and we're like kind of zooming out into realms of being that go deeper than mental structure. What happens there is we discover a ground of being that you could call feminine, or like the mother. It's like there's like a womb, right? It's like and this goes into the whole conversation of how the feminine principle of spirit has been suppressed, the knowledge of that has been suppressed in this whole uh, society built on the idea that God is a man or a father or a male. So,
Mm, mm,
so for me, it's understanding that we are all on a journey to balance and harmonize those energies within us, and it's a constant dance. And the more you go into your feminine, the more strong the masculine gets, and that's actually the whole like trick, the whole surprise is like men fear that by going into their feminine that they will lose their masculinity, and that
mm,
happened. And like I said, that happened on my journey. It's like I went into my feminine and I lost touch with my masculinity and realized like, whoa, I've been suppressing my masculinity because of guilt and shame about how I've seen men use their masculinity in unconscious, unintegrated ways. But actually, the deeper I went into my feminine, as I began to reclaim my masculine, I found like I've become more and more and more masculine and more permission to be more masculine, and they strengthen and they complete each other, right? Like it's, you can just think of it as the idea of like a, in the heterosexual cultural normative perspective, it's like a good woman makes a fucking good man, and like
Mm.
want a woman to be happy, you give her like a good fucking man. You know, it's all this romanticization in this symbol of like partnership, but that's true for us as men. That I've uncovered is the deeper I've gone into my being without the idea of what a man is and what I need to do to be a man, the deeper I've gone into my being, the more I've come out as a sovereign fucking man. And this is,
Mm.
it doesn't, not even man just doesn't feel authentic to say. So I caught myself there. But as a sovereign masculine, the more I've gone into my feminine, and this is the purpose of masculinity, I think, on a higher level, rather than, because it's actually, we think it's a masculine thing to do what society wants us to do, and to like fucking warrior up and adhere to the system. But the purpose of masculinity, the strength of masculinity, the the balls, is like, do you have the sovereignty and the audacity to say fuck no to what other people are telling you about what it means to be a man or what it means to be a functioning human, and just to like honor and really love your feminine, and like really
Mm.
any idea of who you are and dissolve into the place of being, which is what we're all seeking and craving when we want to go inside a woman. We're seeking to lose ourselves in the feminine, to come back to the place we came from the womb of our mothers, right? Where
Mm.
all just like, so can we allow our ego identities of masculinity, as it's been sold to us as some like rigged thing, can we allow that to dissolve in the ground of feminine being, which the earth is made of and all of creation is made of, like a big sea or womb of energy. And then from that place, when we rest in that place and in that timeless beingness and are nourished by that love, and knowing that every part of us is loved and we don't have to do anything or have any amount of money or turn in our home assignment on time, none of that matters. We're unconditionally fucking loved. When we have that ground of being, we become, our masculine energy naturally rises to the surface in like authentic sovereignty and authority and agency, and shows the fuck up for that deeper purpose that's awakened. And it's like, but the purpose is love, and finally we're awake to the fact that the purpose of our power is not to fight something, because the fighting of anything is actually trying to find love and connection with what a little wounded boy within us thinks is we're never gonna get, which is the love of the feminine. So there's an insecure, wounded boy that's seeking the love of the feminine behind every macho performance.
Mm.
So, so when we remember that love is actually all the warrior cares about, like behind every warrior is a lover, then this love fucking
Mm.
us to become whole and really fucking powerful, because we're not projecting that we'll find our wholeness outside. and and so it's like the integration of all these archetypes, right, of sovereign and warrior and lover, and there's that whole conversation. But we show up in masculinity and in our work and in life, because but we're nourished from the wellspring of our source, and we show up in a purpose and a passion. So the only thing that I can do, only thing that nourishes my service in the world and my showing the fuck up, like I can't do it for anyone's reason of why I should do it. I can't do it for any story other than this like deep taste of love, and then this deep love that animates my body through this male body, the specific energetics and alchemy of what that entails, in how masculinity expresses through this body with the help of my sexual organs and hormones and all that. It calls me into a deeper so I'm constantly being called into deeper and deeper masculinity to meet the deeper and deeper femininity that I'm touching,
Mm,
and I'm constantly being called to show the fuck up for more of my life and for more of loving life and more of loving myself and discovering deeper and deeper layers of no bullshit masculinity that are needed in order to show up for love. And there's so many layers of bullshit that just need to be sliced through that are keeping us stagnant and stuck. And it can become like we can become kind of dissociated at some points as creatives or spiritual people or feminine beings. There can be like tendency to get floaty. But once that love or that inspiration is found, I think the masculine comes in when we really like nothing is really sustainable in the pursuit of manifesting that higher vision and deeper being in the world. Nothing is sustainable source of motivation for that besides the acknowledgement of like the taste of love and and connection to all life. And then the masculine comes in and he's like, okay, what the fuck do I need to do to honor that? Like,
mm,
and what do I need to do to create a new world? Because really, there's like the true masculine is here to create a new world, to birth a new world, to show up for love, for the earth, for humanity, and it has to start with oneself, and it has to start with access to this ground of feminine beingness, which reminds us that as much as there's always the like deeper to get into the masculine, there's always the mercy of the mother energy holding us through all of it, and there's nowhere to get to, and it's like the true sustainability of the masculine purpose is not to get somewhere, but it's for the very act of uh, of love, the very knowing that wherever we are and are showing up for the world, it's not to get anywhere, but it's knowing that where we are, it's love. We're in a love making with the feminine in that
mm,
process,
mm,
and so it doesn't matter how it's done. All that matters is that we're showing up authentically for it, and that we also get to give ourselves breaks and constantly die to the feminine and to the rest and to all these other principles in order to actually receive deeper than we ever have been taught we can receive, and grieve deeper than we ever thought we could grieve, so we can become emptier and emptier and be moved by something even more sincere, and to create a world that reflects that inner connection with all these.
mm.
So I just went really fucking deep and opened up a whole thing, but thank you for letting me try to like riff on that.
Yeah, wow. Man, so much there, and thank you for going there. I want to pick up on the
Talk about. So thank you for bearing with me while I try to like dance with all the different pieces because it's such a big thing you're opening up here. So I just really
mm,
appreciate you opening up this conversation. And, yeah, letting me try to dance with it.
yeah, you did. You danced very well with it, and I really love that piece on you were talking about like what like reconnecting with purpose, like and reconnecting with love and reconnecting with our why, and like what is the reason underneath why we're doing something is kind of what I heard in that. And how can I sink deeper and come with my action from a place of being moved. And I think there's something really powerful in that spot because I see so much masculine energy being expressed that feels significantly disconnected from a deeper purpose and reason. It's like that energy of uh, progress for progress sake rather than evaluating why am I doing this? Why do I need more money? Why do I need um, to impact more people even? Why do I need more love, like more, affection from someone? And it seems like it's very easy to get caught in this trap of reaching outside of oneself for something, seeking validation, which I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think any of these things are bad things. I don't think making more money, reaching more people, having more affection and connections is a bad thing. I think that there's just like, what's the why underneath that? Why am I seeking more money? Why am I seeking more affection? Is it to try to get something that I don't think I have myself? Or is it coming from a place of overflow? Is it coming from a place of, wow, I love myself so much and I have so much affection for myself that I want to share that with someone else? So it's like, I think both extremes are one, um, I'm sharing because I don't think I have enough. And I feel like I need to try to give or be of service so that I can receive validation, so that I'm a good person and that I'm enough. Or there's the like, I'm going out for this connection because I'm trying to take and I'm trying to get something that I don't believe I have. But either one is an incorrect, or I'd just say less meaningful way of showing up in the world than what you were talking about, which is how can I sink how can I sink deeper into myself and what moves me and what matters most to me, and come from a place of being moved. I just love that so much, and I feel like that's such a huge key to what we're talking about around embracing the masculine coming from a more dominant feminine space. And I think creativity, to kind of bring that piece in, I know my best art comes from when I am deeply moved.
Mm,
When I'm really tapped into my feminine, I'm really feeling the most and I'm in touch with myself the deepest. That's when my best art comes through. That's when my best actions I take in my business comes through. It's when I'm connected to a meaningful why. It's when I'm connected to my deeper feelings inside of myself. And I've done the work to excavate those. And I think that's the work of the feminine. The work of the masculine is to create outwardly and to accomplish things and get things done. The work of the feminine is to feel more and to feel deeper and to navigate those feelings and understand them better and to excavate them and to be with them and to get in touch with them on a deeper level. And that is the work of the feminine, which can seem a little more ambiguous, especially with those not familiar. And I think yet at the same time, it's something at this point that there's many people out there who know how to do that skillfully. And I think that is going to be more and more necessary for all humans to learn how to navigate their inner selves and their feelings. So rather than trying to go forward and get somewhere, how can I go deeper into this experience that I'm already having? How can I go deeper into the love that's already present? How can I go deeper into the wealth and abundance I already have in my life? Fuck going to get more money. Like, what do I already have? Wow, I have like a room. Wow, I have food in my fridge. Wow, like I have water to drink. Like, I have so much. Like, I have a vehicle to get me around. And like, yes, that vehicle, like, I would like to upgrade that at some point soon because it doesn't run so well and it doesn't get great gas mileage. So like there's always room for improvement, but like what am I not acknowledging right now? And I think that's a trap I get caught in sometimes is like, oh man, like man, I have a shitty truck. Like, that thing sucks. Like I want it gone. Rather than like, wow, like thank you for this vehicle that gets me to where I need to go. That would be awful if I didn't have one. Like I can't walk to the places I need to go. It would take me forever.
So it's like, how can I like go deeper into this moment and be grateful for what I have and appreciate more and more and be more and more fulfilled with what's already here. And I think that makes way for, wow, I have so much and I would love more. And this is what I'm going to do with more. Like when I have more, I just want to give more. When I'm really tuned into my feminine and I'm coming from that place of overflow, like I just want to share more from my overflow rather than going out and needing to save someone or hoarding extra resources. It's like anything that comes into my life, if I can be more grateful for what I have now, then anything that comes in is like extra. And now my mind is thinking like, how can I utilize this to not only like appreciate my life even more, but to also like serve other people as well. So I'd love to hear, yeah, like any reflections you have on that piece.
Wow, that's a whole thing. Yeah, that's a yeah, that's the conversation of what does it mean to actually feel fulfilled? And I love the way you're making it seem so accessible. It's like, what if I just let myself like feel fulfilled and just receive what's already here and like give from overflow? Um, I think that's such a foreign concept. That's the consequence of our hypermasculine culture. Um, yeah, so there's so much there, and it's true. The more we allow ourselves to receive, which is like the feminine principle. Yeah, the whole game, just to fucking like chop through the matrix real quick. The whole game of trying to get anywhere as a patriarchal, hypermasculine culture is where we're trying to get is here to where we already are and where we've always been. We're just dissociated from feeling our body, as you said, and from being present with like, oh, cool room. Like, whoa, truck. Like, whoa, four wheels. And like,
Yes.
like the more sensitive. So it's really the conversation of like the dissociation that happens in the mind and disconnection from the body and from feeling and from presence with what is, because the mind can never be present with reality as it is. And so we're trying to dominate reality with our mind because we're terrified of the unknown, we're terrified of the feminine. This is the funny secret too, is like men are actually all the most vicious men are actually the thing they fear the most is the feminine, which is why
Mm,
they feel a need to dominate her and to control everything because they're absolutely terrified of how obliterating the feminine is and how obliterating love is and how obliterating this aspect of reality that is undefinable. It's really scary when you're identified with something
mm.
you think is a rigid construct.
'Cause we fear what we don't understand, right?
Mm, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and we fear and we're conditioned to fear what we can't define. We're conditioned to fear the unknown, and the unknown to me is the principle of feminine, and the known is like the masculine.
Mm,
So the light in some way is the masculine, like consciousness, and then there's like the unconscious, which is like the feminine. Um, so we're taught to fear the chaos, like everything in the world is going crazy right now. This is bad. It's bad that we don't understand and we can't define and fit what's happening in the box. Bad, bad, bad. I need to take a side right now in order to like, in order to work something out. I should find some kind of box to put myself in so I can fight the thing that's bad.
yeah, yo. It's like the caterpillar fearing going into the cocoon. It's like it's understandable. Like if you're a caterpillar your whole life and yeah, now you feel like you're dying. You feel like something crazy is happening and this can't be good.
Yeah.
But how do you know what's happening? Like, do you even know? I don't know what the fuck's happening. Like, I could give you some theories and ideas, but do I really know what's happening? All I really know is that I have seen the butterfly in myself, and I believe that's where I'm headed to. And I think that's what allows me to be okay with what's happening right now, even if there's pieces I still judge, even if there's things I don't quite understand. But I definitely am not trying to pretend that I know exactly what's going on or to limit my perception of what's happening. I think that's what happens a lot of time, that the masculine is really awful in doing, is like judging the feminine and trying to define it or confine it or box it into a thing so that it can feel okay. And yet that's not the purpose of the feminine, to be boxed in or contained like that. I think the masculine, in an ideal sense, can provide a structure for the feminine, but that is to create more freedom and to create more tangibility and to create like a symbiosis between the two, but not to block it out or to try to confine it so much to contain it. It's not meant to contain the feminine, it's meant to support the feminine. I think that's a misconception about the masculine energy, is to like control and to just like dominate. No, like just like straight up no. That's not the purpose of the masculine. Is to provide structure and to support, not to dominate, but to support.
Mm. Hallelujah. I feel like that's juicy for you, whatever's happening. So I'm gonna open it up if you want to keep riffing on that. Feels like there's some good energy, or I could bounce back.
Yeah, I think just the last thing I'll say there is that as a more naturally feminine dominant man, I felt like growing up there was a lot that others did to try to contain me or restrict me or suppress me, whether that was my peers bullying me or my religion telling me how I should or should not use my body, or just a whole variety of factors on how society told me that I needed to act and fit in, that felt very confining to my feminine nature and really stunted my creativity for a very long time. There was a period of time for over 10 years that I didn't do any kind of creative writing, even though I was a writer when I was young. I stopped all of that. I only did assignments for school, and that was it, because my creativity, my feminine was so heavily shamed and bottled up that it didn't have the right structure or support to come out and be seen and appreciated. And I felt like a huge aspect of me has just been hidden most of my life because it wasn't okay for me to show up with my creativity and my feminine essence. It just wasn't okay, and it was so confined that because I don't know, I think people are scared of something that's so big and so powerful, and the feminine is very powerful. Um, and I think that I would love to see more of an appreciation for all of our feminines. And I think if we can learn to cultivate a better relationship with our feminine and be okay with those things that our masculine can't understand or define or put in a box, that we'll be a lot better off. And that a lot more connected creative solutions can come online that I think at present are collectively blocked because we're still trying so hard to dominate and suppress the feminine energy or see it as not worthwhile and not valuable. It's like if you're not showing up and giving me tangible, productive work every hour that you're clocked in, then you're not considered valuable. Like that's one of our strongest value systems, is like, what is your like net measurable productivity that we can put down on paper or turn into a number? But there's a lot of power in things that are undefinable or, unnumerable. I don't think that's a word. Um, but
Yeah.
again, You know, that's my feminine coming out and just making words up and shit. Oh, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to make up words. You have to use whatever's in the dictionary, and that's your limited set of options. But I think there's just so much more to life than that. And I think the last thing I'll say on that, and I think we got just a few minutes and we can wrap it up here, is I would love to see there be more permission for, especially for people who identify as men, to allow themselves to be more free and expressive and creative, to just sing or dance or rap or do whatever it is, or just even talk without having anywhere goals to get to. You know, I'm not showing up here with a specific goal or outcome that I need to happen. I'm talking for the sake of enjoyment and conversation with my good friend here because I enjoy connecting with you. And I think you have valuable things to share that I can learn from. And, you know, I guess the only goal that I have is just to enjoy and to share and to express. And whatever comes from that comes from that. You know, if even one person was inspired by this conversation or something, got something out of it, great. But I don't even need that to happen. I'm
Mm.
just here to enjoy the conversation itself, even if nobody was watching, because I enjoy it, and that's why I'm here. So yeah, that's kind of the last piece I want to end on, and would love to hear if you have any final reflections coming up for you or takeaways as we kind of bring this conversation to masculine close, noticing the time.
Uh, yeah, there's something that came up that I want to touch on a little bit, and then I'll see if I can bring it home.
Cool.
It is this that I started touching on earlier. This ever softening that happens. This dissension actually into our body, and it's the thing that the patriarchy, the hyper masculine culture fears the most, because when we soften and begin to feel, there's so much hidden grief there
Mm,
behind the warrior, and even behind the social justice warrior, behind the fire, behind the rage and the power is like the feelings that we were trying to avoid using this facade. So the griefing is huge, and the tenderness of that, the flow, the water, the feminine, right? That's waiting there, and so we're terrified of feeling. We're terrified of softening, or and yeah, because there isn't a space held that where that's normalized and celebrated, which is
mm,
we're creating that culture. But on the other side of it, we find that that feelings are the most delicious thing ever, and that the more we let that river flow of suppressed emotion and grief, the more we can receive what is always here within our own presence and within every little sensation, and the fuller we become, and we become more connected to the earth, to nature, which is a huge part of it, with what is here, when we're not trying to define who we are or where we have to get to, when we're just here in that feminine place of being, the being that, which is the ground from which doing emerges, from which the masculine erects.
mm.
Um, we tap into so much joy and juiciness, and this is really crucial medicine for all of us at this time, because it's in that place where the life force of the feminine, of nature, of creation, of earth moves through us, and yeah, she gives us that creative inspiration, and creativity comes from that place of non-definition, new solutions, new ways of being, and we're already feeling it in the moment. So it speaks on that whole piece of like overflowing. It's like the place where receiving and giving are there's no more illusion of separation. So we're simultaneously receiving the joy and the ecstasy of being in this kind of eco sensuality of like connection with all of life, and with the feminine principle of feeling and embodiment and joy and spontaneity. And codes come in of inspiration, and it is a dance where the masculine does come in and is asked to ground that energy in and to focus that energy, and because there is such thing as toxic femininity. Just to kind of wrap it up on this note, to balance it out, there is toxic femininity, and there is getting lost in the flow, getting lost in the sauce, and getting like lost in emotional spirals and chaos. There is that, and that's where the masculine cuts in and goes, no, enough. Like, this is why I'm here. This is what's important. This is what's real. This is what needs to happen in order to find balance. So it's constantly a dance of like exploration, and both are equally divine, the feminine and the masculine working together. And yeah, the deeper we come into the feminine, I just find, to wrap it up, that the deeper the masculine comes online and is asked to show the fuck up, to meet that level of need, the level of longing, to meet how fucking wet the feminine is, for the masculine to finally meet her through us, and through us showing up in the world, like, and so yeah, just the deeper I've gone into my being, the deeper I'm called into my masculine, into my doing, in order to show up for that, and to constantly be humbled and torn apart again, and be swallowed whole by the feminine and by the death process, in order to rebirth again as the butterfly, over and over again, in deeper and deeper balance and integration. And I truly believe that the future for us and the nature of all of us is this principle of Shiva Shakti, non-dual realization, Hieros Gamos, the snakes intertwined, the knowing that we are the masculine and the feminine, and getting to a place of lack of differentiation. And what we're doing right now is we're weaving the realm of being that we've explored as psychonauts, spiritual creatives. We bring this place of being that's been suppressed, and this culture has been built based on a disconnection from. We bring that back to remind us of our source, which generates us with new life, and we're simultaneously tasked with the mission, with the purpose, the masculine mission and purpose of figuring out how to build a world that can honor that, and to bridge and to fit and to figure it out, and to show up for the very real healing and love that needs to be stood up for at this time. But just as we show up more and more for the deep call of the earth and of her children, which are our family, and for each other, and for the women in the world that have been suppressed, and the men in the world that have been suppressed, and this whole like undertaking that we need to show up for, and that our masculine drive brings us in for, in remembering the place of being, we embody the medicine and the resolution of the illusion that got us into this mess in the first place, knowing that there's permission in every moment to receive ourselves as that which we are seeking, and to let something bigger than us, than who we think we are, continue to love through us into the world in a way that dissolves all idea of masculine and feminine, doing, being, this, that. So
yeah. I love that. I just want to real quick say thank you, Firefly. Great convo, helped shed a lot of good insight on my own inner imbalances. I'm glad that you were able to be here. I am Gratitude King. Much love, Nathan. Good to see you, brother.
Bro, good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I just want to kind of like tie in kind of that last piece you said of, one thing I heard in that was that the feminine is thirsty for a strong masculine to show up and help create the structure for that feminine to be expressed and shared.
And let me just insert this right there, because this is huge. We're talking about the masculine accessing the feminine accessing her healthy masculine is really important, because unconsciously women are taught to access this masculine,
Mm.
like this conditioned cultural idea of masculinity. But within all women, there's still a seeking, and it's still like, just if I could really transmit that this is equally for women to realize that that pillar
Yes.
masculinity
Yes.
seeking is within them. There is no father above them. They are the fucking father too.
And equally for men, and when I was specifically saying right there, feminine, I was referring to the feminine that's within all of us. Like the feminine in men is thirsting to be brought out. It's like the masculine is what makes something tangible, right? It's like, so it's like in me, it's like, where is my healthy feminine? And what inspiration source am I drawing from in myself that wants to be expressed through my masculine? And likewise, my masculine is seeking the feminine myself, so it has something meaningful to express. Like it has something meaningful to make tangible and to create. Otherwise, if the masculine is just disconnected from the feminine, I'm just creating. I'm just creating out of habits, patterns, programming, like society, whatever I learned, but I'm not connected to something meaningful within me. So I think that feminine in myself is what I want to be creating from. And then, yeah, like likewise for women, it's like I think women bring such a beautiful creativity and inspiration, and like women have masculine in them as well, and women can create things and make shit happen. And it's like that is within all of us. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from our conversation is that we all function best when both are honored and both are developed and cultivated and appreciated for what they bring. And they're like working together, they're like weaving together so that we can bring forth a much more meaningful creation and have a more meaningful experience. Mitch says, I don't think I have a feminine side. Bro, you're like one of the sweetest guys I know. Don't give me that bullshit. I'm not taking it. Oh, but yeah, such a great conversation with you, and I'm super grateful to be able to show up and just jam on this and to feel your heart. Yeah, it was so good, brother, and I'd love to do it again soon. I know I'm gonna have the pleasure of having you on our podcast. I definitely have a few ideas on what we can dive into even deeper based on this conversation. I'd really love to dive deeper on that piece of grief and kind of our fear and feeling that grief and exploring that. That's definitely one thing that I felt like there was a whole nother conversation underneath that. But yeah, thank you again just for taking the time to connect. And yeah, super good combo.
Dude, yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, seriously, thank you so much. What an honor, what a gift. Well, yeah, thank you for opening up this conversation and this container. And I'm just, there's so much joy to be able to just riff on this with you. And yeah, thank you for all you carry, all the codes you carry here. And so much fun for
Mm.
me. I feel so grateful. Thank you, brother. Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. It's such an important conversation. So
Absolutely.
us for being able to go there. Yeah.
Hmm. My pleasure. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks everyone who tuned in. We appreciate you guys just witnessing and being a part of this. Much love and talk to you guys soon.
Blessings.
Peace.